Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 23 of season 6 of Arrow, Life Sentence. So here's our season finale. A lot of things here kind of go the way we expected. There's a few things that were some nice twists. All in all, not a bad season finale. Not quite as crazy as last season's, but still pretty solid. So let's just kind of get right into it. A few things in this episode were pretty easy to predict, such as Quentin being dying. All right. Usually, a character of notably important character dies at the end of a season finale. This is no exception. That Paul Blackthorne was leaving the show was not news. So Quentin dying, not a surprise. I am glad that they kind of didn't have Ricardo Diaz kill him, just because, frankly, I think Diaz has been overhyped way more than he really deserves already. And him getting to kill a major character like Quentin just doesn't really feel like something he's earned. If it had been someone like Malcolm Merlyn, then yeah, okay, I could get behind that. But Diaz just doesn't feel like he's earned that. Um, And I'm kind of so him dying basically is just complications from surgery and being shot by Diaz earlier. Okay, that I can live with. And he did get to have a really nice moment with Oliver beforehand, where Oliver basically says that in a lot of ways Quentin was like another father to him, which is just an enormous reversal of where Oliver and Quentin were back in season one, where Quentin absolutely despised Oliver and just was looking for any reason to throw Oliver in jail. But again, everybody's grown as a character over the course of these 6 seasons, and they did such an enormous 180 with these characters, where they were when we were introduced to them on the show and where they ended up when Quentin died. I mean, it's a real testament that was a very legitimate and moving scene. Katie Lotz popping up as Sarah was great and all, um, but it just didn't really feel like, other than like having her meet Black Siren, eh, I was kind of hoping for some more. I did like that bit where she almost hugs Laurel, and then she's just like, "Oh wait, this isn't my sister," and she's just like, "So are you like the Laurel that I knew?" And Black Siren is forced to admit, like, "No, I'm really nothing like her." Uh, I'm not 100% sold on this redemption arc for Black Siren. I mean, she, you know, joyfully murdered a whole lot of people for her own pleasure and at times unnecessarily. So it doesn't really feel like this sort of turnaround is really completely earned in my book. But I mean, never mind the fact that she was scared completely witless of Diaz when, she had way more better reasons to be afraid of Zoom. But yeah, I digress on that one. Still, it does keep her around as somebody who has interesting stuff going on, and where she goes with this in season 7 is going to be interesting. And certainly letting her have that moment where it looked like she was about to be killed by Black Canary proper, only to have it switch around. Okay, nicely done there. Um, Speaking of kind of redemption arcs, I think this episode was in a lot of ways a chance to sort of rehabilitate Renee as a character, because over the course of the season he's really been at times a completely unreasonable, unnecessary dick at times. Now, in all fairness, he has at times had legitimate reasons to be very upset, particularly with Oliver. But I mean, he did. He actually attacked Oliver and got up Oliver's case when Oliver gave him a compliment. I mean, yeah. But here, we see that he and Oliver are genuinely on good terms by the end of the episode. Um, and we also sort of see those moments that remind us that Renee, for all his flaws, is an extremely devoting and loving father, with that phone call with his daughter, and that he risked his life to save that FBI agent. showing that, yeah, for all his flaws, Renee is a good person who wants to try to help other people. Again, a nice moment. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about here? Tonight's drink, for anyone curious, is once again Rooibos tea. Um, let's see. Anatoly kind of comes back around to the good guys again. I'm still a little on that. But okay, whatever. At this point, I don't really care too much about him one way or the other. Um, Nothing really super to say about Felicity. Um, Although her scenes with Oliver were very, very moving, it just sort of felt like there wasn't a lot that was Felicity outside of her relationship with Oliver. Um, Diaz getting away was kind of a surprise. I certainly didn't expect that to happen. But I suppose, him getting killed or taken down, uh, there was a lot going on this episode, and I think that maybe they just didn't really have the time to sort of do that properly. And this situation here where he gets away, which again, that's a twist. That's not something we see coming. Um, Opens up the door to him bringing in the longbow hunters. I know there was a version of these characters who popped up in the comics in a story with Richard Dragon, but I never read that story, so I don't know a lot about it. Of course, Longbow Hunters is the name of one of the most famous Green Arrow stories ever. I actually did read that story a couple of years ago. I don't remember a lot of the details there, but it's quite good. I do remember that. I was like, wow, I mean, I can see why this is such a famous story. And there was definitely some really cool stuff with Black Canary in that story. So, I mean, you can sort of see why that is considered one of these seminal works involving Green Arrow. So if they're going to have the Longbow Hunters as the main antagonists next season, and I mean they're explicitly stated to be like, a group of assassins even the League of Assassins didn't want to tangle with. Okay, that's not bad. That sounds potentially intriguing, and that also gives them reasons to bring in, have Nyssa pop back up. Colton Hayes has been confirmed to be coming back as a regular next season. Not sure what they're going to do with Thea, but if we could get Tommy to come back twice this season, I'm sure they can work something out with Willa Holland to have her come back at least once next season. And I mean, of course, the whole thing, just by the name of the episode, not a surprise that Oliver, outs himself to everybody in public, and is going to jail. Pretty easy to guess that's where this was all going to go. People have noted that Oliver in jail seems very reminiscent of the failed Green Arrow movie that was going to be called basically a story about Oliver Queen being thrown in jail and having to bust out, fight his way through a whole bunch of D-list DC supervillains and then clear his name. I think it was called even Green Arrow Supermax, and supposedly David Goyer was involved in the movie for a long time. Which, in all fairness, does sound like a really cool movie. I mean, Oliver is one of the characters. He doesn't have powers. He only has training. And you put him in a prison where everybody knows he's Green Arrow and everybody's gunning for him. And I believe it's heavily implied that the prison was Iron Heights. Well, that gives you a lot of opportunities to, again, bring in some minor villains for him to deal with in a situation where it's just sort of like Oliver, his skills and resourcefulness, and how does he deal with this situation, because this is not something that can be taken back. He basically said on television that he was the Green Arrow. And season 7, well, there's a good possibility that might be the final season. We'll have to see, because beyond that, I think there's contract issues where the actors can't basically ask for boatloads of more money to come back for more. and studios don't typically like to do that. And of course, 7 seasons generally is these days considered a pretty reasonable run for any TV show, particularly a drama or an action drama, whatever. I mean, of course, there are exceptions like Supernatural, but I don't think the actors like Stephen Amell and all that are going to want to do anything like that. I have a feeling that eventually they are going to want to move on and sort of move over into like, well, I'll occasionally pop back up as a guest star on the other shows. I'll probably come back for the yearly crossover and all of that. But, we'll see. There's no reason to really worry about that too much. But kind of getting back to the character stuff, I really did like that they had that great moment between Oliver and Diggle where Oliver said, like, you know what, there's no reason there can't be 2 Green Arrows. So the idea that, he has said, like, you know what, man, no more jerking you around. You are legitimately 100% worthy to call yourself Green Arrow if that's what you want to do. And, good. That seems like a reasonable place for things to be. Oliver, if Oliver goes out there, well, John can suit up as Spartan. If Oliver's not there, then, he can go out and people will know that, hey, Oliver Queen might be in jail, but Green Arrow is still out there. And, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to believe this is all some great fake out that that would just be like a ridiculous thing. Oliver explicitly said, Roy Harper is not the Green Arrow. Tommy Merlin is not Green Arrow. I'm Green Arrow. I always have been. Which does sort of lead to the issue of like, oh yeah, remember the early seasons where Oliver killed like boatloads of people? I remember, like, I think in the early part of season 1, season 3, somebody did the math and like, I watched every single episode of the first 2 seasons, and over that course, Oliver killed like personally 50 people, and then of course he's via flashbacks and other events since then, we've seen that, yeah, Oliver has racked up a pretty impressive body count. I mean, it would not be surprising if he's hit 3 digits in terms of people that he's killed. And, not just in self-defense either. Remember episode 1? Nobody can know my secret? So the idea that Oliver kind of deserves to be in jail is not entirely unreasonable. And the whole, well, I've changed, well, goody goody gumdrops for you, Oliver, but there's still literally dozens of people that you've killed that need to be answered for, and you can't really claim self-defense on all of them. Oh yeah, and hey, remember that time last season when Prometheus tricked you into murdering a cop? So, yeah. In any case, I think this leaves us in a really interesting place next season. I remember watching an interview with one of the producers. And we got Wendy Merkel and Mark Guggenheim, who are the two of the big showrunners who are leaving Arrow, leaving it in different hands for next season. Anyway, basically they said that one of the things they like to do is just kind of completely blow the show up at the end of the season, and then when things pick up several months later in universe, everybody is in a completely different place. And that's a very standard way of doing things on CW shows. That's not a criticism. It's certainly not a bad way to do things, and it's very in keeping with comic book tradition and just the tradition of a lot of other drama shows. Just have everything go completely nuts at the end of the season. Pick back up with the characters a few months later, and things have changed for everybody. And it's sort of like, okay, where do things go from here? It's a perfectly reasonable way of handling serialized storytelling like this, and it's promising to be a very interesting season. Oliver is in a really bad situation. Diaz is still out there. He seems to have hooked up with the Longbow Hunters, and he's going to definitely be looking for payback. And it's going to be an interesting season nonetheless, whatever happens. So guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, subscribe. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and also join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.